My speech, my preaching were not with persuasive words of human wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power. Now let's be careful how we hear this. It's not that he said, well, I was kind of trembling, and I was kind of weak and afraid, but then I went, Shazam! See that? All the people on the left hand of the sanctuary just fell down. No. It's interesting to me that if you read the history of the founding of the Church of Corinth, you don't find any miracles mentioned. Now, that's not the only place where Paul planted a church that's recorded in the book of Acts where it doesn't record a miracle. But he was there a year and a half. You'd think that, okay, there was something big. You read just the next chapter, Ephesus, they're going, man, there were miracles and miracles. There were unusual miracles. Like not just your everyday miracles going on in Ephesus. But you don't find that recorded in Corinth. I'm not saying that there weren't miracles there. But what I'm saying is we can't read this verse right here that, okay, I didn't come and I couldn't speak very well, but man, I can make them fall. Because that's how many are reading it and living by it today. And those are trying to appease those who are seeking a sign. And if you're trying to appease and draw those who are seeking a sign, the sign next week better be better than the sign was this week. I'm not saying that there aren't signs and wonders by the Lord God Almighty. Absolutely there are. Absolutely. But we seek not the sign. That would be like taking a trip from here to Chicago. And as soon as you got on the parkway and saw the first sign that said Chicago, 500 miles, you stopped, pulled over, and said, we're here. Yeah. Here's the sign. I have it. I'm holding it. I have the sign for Chicago. No, it's pointing to something. And the signs and wonders recorded in the Scriptures and recorded throughout the life of the church, they're exactly that. They're signs. They're wonders. Whoa! I saw a man I helped pray for, but it was someone else who led the prayer when we were at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, at the training base there. We used to be able to get in, and we were the only people from outside the base that the new recruits got to see in their first 9 weeks of basic training. They were 2 weeks away from completing their basic training. We were the first person they got to see, and we came in with a band, and there were a couple women in the band, and this was all male back in those days. We're talking about back in the 70s. And so we're coming in, and man, everybody came to the Christian concert. And they sat through it totally, right? This one guy came up afterwards, and he goes, you know what? I broke my thumb right here, and I don't know if they're going to let me graduate because of my broken thumb. Would you pray for me? And we prayed for him. We're just, we're all in our 20s, and we're just loving Jesus and singing for him and preaching. Sure, we'll pray for you. Put your hands on him. And the guy who led the prayer prayed, and this guy goes, my hand's getting hot. My hand's getting hot. He rips the splint off his broken hand, and he starts going like this. I'm like, whoa. How'd that happen? That's my thought process. Is okay, I know it's the Lord. Okay, I got to remember how to pray like that next time. What did we say? Because it's amazing to us. Yet it's the Lord God Almighty. It's a wonder. It doesn't happen every day. That's why it's a wonder. And it's a sign. And it was a sign to that man. And the next day, that was on a Saturday night, Sunday morning in a church service. He came in. We sat in the church service and played some. And then the chaplain led the church service and asked for testimony. This guy jumped up. He didn't talk at all about his hand. You know what he talked about? He said, I have been illiterate and dyslexic all of my life. I grew up believing in God, but unable to read and so unable to read the scriptures. And he said, I woke up this morning and I can read. He said, I drove the guys crazy in the vehicle over here because I was reading every sign out loud to prove to them that I could read. He said, and so now I can read the Bible. Awesome. You see, that miracle in his hand was a sign to him to have faith in his God that he could do anything. And the next morning, God opened up his mind to a whole new area of his life. God is so good.